shipment of COVID-19 vaccines. The plane has just touched down at the tarmac, and officials are already outside preparing to greet the officials and to actually receive the vaccines. Now, this is an RSS aircraft that's just arrived from St. Lucia. We're now showing you direct feed of the aircraft taxiing to a complete stop, and once it has reached a full stop, a number of officials, including the Minister of Health, the Honorable Akila Byron-Nisbet, the PAHO country representative Katrina Smith, and other related health officials will be walking out to the airport to receive the vaccines. Now, we are going to be receiving 21,600 doses in this shipment. Each person will be receiving 2 doses, so that means we'll be able to inoculate 10,800 people from this shipment alone. Now, that's in addition to the 20,000 doses we received earlier, which would have inoculated 10,000 persons. Of that batch, I believe we have already inoculated just over 9,500 persons, if I can get the exact figure just now. Yes, we have already inoculated 9,774 persons from the previous batch of 20,000. Now, as we can see, persons are disembarking. Well, they're disembarking on an American Airlines jet, and that vehicle, that aircraft that you're seeing behind, is the RSS jet with the shipment of vaccines. The health officials are already outside awaiting the vessel to come to a full stop, and then the ceremony will proceed. The officials will receive the vaccines. There will be a handover, a brief photo op, and then we shall proceed to a ceremony inside the Welcome Center, where we shall see presentations by Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Dolores Stapleton Harris, remarks by PAHO Country Representative Katrina Smith, as well as remarks from Minister of Health, the Honorable Akila Byron-Nisbet, and Prime Minister, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris. Both the PM and the Health Minister are now on the ground, preparing to walk to the aircraft and interact with the officials and officially receive the vaccines. Now, these vaccines are being provided by the COVAX facility. It's a worldwide program that's dedicated to providing access to COVID-19 vaccines. It's led by several organizations, including UNICEF, the World Health Organization, and the Pan American Health Organization. There are 145 COVAX participants, including St. Kitts and Nevis, countries from all around the world that have bought into this program in order to receive these vaccines. And COVAX's whole purpose is to provide what is called equitable access. That means fair and impartial access to vaccines. We have heard several reports of countries hoarding vaccines and countries resistant to export vaccines to other nations that are in need. Well, what COVAX is doing is providing an opportunity for these countries in need, usually low and middle income countries, to have access to not only COVID-19 vaccines, but to tests and therapies. And today we are receiving 21,600 doses courtesy of the COVAX facility. Now, the Federation secured its portion of vaccines through the arrangement by paying what was a required sum of just over 200,000 US. If I'm not mistaken, I think the correct figure is 223,660. Now, of that amount, the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPHA, paid just over $96,000, while the federal government paid the balance of just over 120,000 US dollars. These figures are all in US. And what that did, it basically assured us a portion of a certain amount of vaccines for the Federation. And that batch is what we are receiving today. Now, initially it was announced that we would be receiving these vaccines in 3 tranches of 7,200 each, which were supposed to be spread over a few weeks. But things have changed, and we are now receiving the entire batch, 21,600 in one go. We are expecting that following the meet and greet on the tarmac, as I said, there would be a photo op. Following that, the dignitaries will return to the Welcome Center, and there will be a brief ceremony. Now, from what I understand, the COVAX facility is providing the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine to all participants. So all countries that are buying into the COVAX facility are receiving the same vaccine. A total of 336 million doses, from what I understand, are expected to be distributed in the first half of this year to the 145 COVAX participants, including St. Kitts and Nevis. This vessel that has, well, this aircraft, sorry, that has just arrived will be traveling from here to Antigua to make its drop off there. They have previously visited St. Lucia and they're now in St. Kitts. Antigua will be the next stop. Much like last time when the batch of doses from India came, we are one in a series of stops, all benefiting from the donation, as it were. As you can see on screen, Prime Minister Harris is preparing. He's putting on his gloves, and he is joined by Permanent Secretary Dr. Dolores Stapleton Harris, and with her is the PAHO country representative Katrina Smith, and they are now walking out onto the tarmac, heading to the aircraft. Now remember, this is all part of the nation's roll-up to roll-out campaign, and the goal is to get 33,037 persons inoculated. That's 70% of the total population. Once we've reached that number, we would have achieved what is called herd immunity. That basically means we would be at a point where the country is more or less safe from any serious effects of COVID-19. There has been a significant push by the Ministry of Health to encourage everyone to go out and get vaccinated. And in the 7 weeks that the roll-up to roll-out campaign has been active, 9,774 persons have received the first dose of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. That's 7,325 persons in St. Kitts and 2,449 persons in Nevis. And I'm proud to say I'm one of them as well. I got my first dose, didn't hurt much, and I will be getting my second dose in a few weeks. There have been numerous campaigns outlining the safety of the vaccine and encouraging everyone to get vaccinated as part of the country's road to recovery efforts. Numerous officials have been stressing how important it is for everyone to get vaccinated, particularly in the tourism industry, as that is more or less the lifeblood of our country. And since the whole nature of the tourism industry is interacting with visitors, it just makes sense, officials have been saying, for persons, stakeholders in that industry to get vaccinated, protected, so that they can interact with visitors and revive the industry. Now, certain persons, including the Prime Minister, have returned to the Welcome Center. Meanwhile, back out on the tarmac, they are still awaiting the actual presentation of the vaccines. Once again, we are live on ZIZ Radio and ZIZ TV and on our social media pages, including the ZIZ YouTube channel and the ZIZ Facebook page. For those of you just joining us, we are here live at the Robert L. Bradshaw International Airport, just ahead of the arrival of the next shipment of COVID-19 vaccines from the COVAX facility. And to talk to us a bit more about the COVAX facility, I'm going to be joined in a matter of moments by the Medical Chief of Staff at the Joseph N. France General Hospital, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson. Now, Dr. Wilkinson is no stranger to the discussions about COVID-19. You would have seen his face and heard his voice on numerous platforms, whether it's Leadership Matters or the NEOC briefings, and he has been giving us lots of information about COVID-19, and we're going to be speaking today about the vaccine and the COVAX facility. Welcome, Dr. Wilkinson. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you.
Well, it's good to see you once again. You've been very busy on the TV, haven't you, as of late?
Not by choice, but by force.
No, but we
Force of work.
but we love you for it. So,
you.
so I've been speaking a bit about the COVAX facility, but I think you're in a better position to tell people exactly who might not understand what exactly is the COVAX facility. So could you explain to us what's it all about?
Okay. Well, let me start from the beginning. Very early in the pandemic, world leaders recognized that no one is safe unless everyone is safe. And they decided to come up with a global plan to make tests, therapeutics, and vaccines available for everyone around the world. Because even if the first world countries were able to control the disease in their country, if it was not eradicated in the smallest reaches of the earth, it will reemerge. Okay? And so the World Health Organization came up with what was called the Access to COVID-19 Tool Accelerators, ACT accelerators. And the COVAX facility is the leg that deals with vaccines. Remember I said that the ACT accelerator deals with testing, therapeutics, and vaccines. So the COVAX facility dealt with the vaccine arm of it. And this brought together world leaders, philanthropists, civil society to contribute to this facility to make the vaccines available, because we're talking about making vaccines available to the entire world. And so there will be some countries that could afford to pay, and there are some countries that would not be able to pay. But everyone was asked to contribute towards the COVAX facility. And through this facility, it was thought that if we can immunize at least 20% of the countries, the individual countries' population at the same time, we can somehow arrest the crisis. And in this 20%, it would have included the elderly, the frontline workers, etc. And so St. Kitts signed on to the COVAX facility very early, I think sometime early last year, where our percentage that we paid was to cover 20% of the population.
Okay, so that actually brings me to my next question. We put in, I think about, it was $220,000 US dollars. Does that mean that we're getting $220,000 worth of doses?
Well, don't forget, at the time when the money was put in, they were still working on the vaccine. And we said this was to cover at least 20% of the population. Now, whether or not after we got the 20% and we are moving towards a higher percentage of coverage, because the COVAX facility is not going to stop at 20%. Initially, it is to cover 20% of the population, and then it will move towards herd immunity. And so whether or not the money that we put in was only covering 20% or it would be enough to cover more, I can't speak to that.
So do you know if we could go back to the COVAX facility and get more vaccines?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Of course. Don't forget, the COVAX facility is to provide vaccines for 20% of the populations in countries initially. And then you will move forward. There are some, gave some countries some latitude where you could purchase more than 20%, but not more than 50%, because you need to make sure that vaccines are available. And so the plan for COVAX was to provide 2 billion doses of vaccines globally, which was enough to cover 20% of the world's population.
Okay. Oh gosh, I had a question and it went out of my mind. But so the COVAX facility, I know it's providing 21,600 doses. We got 20,000 doses from the India Serum Institute a couple of weeks ago. And each of them will be covering about half that number in person. So that's 10,000 plus 10,800, which is 20,800 persons.
Yes. Well, just for clarity, I just want to make sure that your figures are correct.
Okay.
In that we initially got 2,000 doses as a gift from Dominica.
Right.
And then we got 20,000 doses from the Serum Institute, India. But we donated 2,000 of those to another Caribbean nation.
I think it was Grenada.
Grenada,
yes.
which left us with our 18,000.
Okay.
And so we're back to
20,000, right.
If you add the 18 and the 2.
Okay, but
so that 28,000 will cover 10,000
people. Right. This batch of 21,600 covers 10,800 people.
Yes.
If my math is correct, that's a total of 20,800 persons
yes.
covered by all of the vaccines doses we've gotten so far.
Yes.
However, the total that we're supposed to be
33,000.
33,000. So how do we fill that gap?
And that gap will be filled, you understand? But everything takes time. Because don't forget the vaccines have a shelf life, and so I'm happy that we're not getting all at the same time, because you can't use all at the same time. You see, it took us 4 weeks to get through 10,000 doses, and now we have another 21,600. And so hopefully, with your help and the whole of society approach, we would get through those doses, and we would be short, as you rightly said, about 14,000 doses, and so we would be sourcing others in the weeks to come. So I am pretty certain that we would not run out of vaccines, hopefully, by the time we get to the same way we didn't run out when we had 2,000, the same way we didn't run out when we had 20,000, and now we're having another 21,600. I'm pretty certain that we would have other vaccines by time.
I don't know how much you can speak to this, but can you speak to us to how the sourcing has been going so far to fill up that gap?
Well, the government has been working on this with unilateral decisions and bilateral communications with a number of other Caribbean countries. The Prime Minister, the Premier of Nevis said just recently that he was in talk with ambassadors from the United States. And so there are a number of other avenues that are being looked at.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. It's been very informative. I'm sure lots of people learned about the COVAX facility, because its name has been in the news quite a lot, but I don't think that people understood what it was all about.
Well, I'm glad that I was of some help.
And it's a good time speaking with you. Thank you. That was the Medical Chief of Staff at the JNF General Hospital, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, talking to us a bit about the COVAX facility. And as we go back to the tarmac, you can see that they are now unloading the shipment of vaccines. A forklift is slowly and gently removing the crate from the aircraft, and officials will be heading out to the crate to, officially receive it. Once again, as Dr. Wilkinson said, this is from the COVAX facility, 21,600 doses, and on hand to receive the doses, as you can see on TV and online, Permanent Secretary Dr. Dolores Stapleton Harris and the PAHO country representative Katrina Smith. As I said, these vaccines all help to bolster the roll-up to roll-out vaccination campaign that's been ongoing in St. Kitts and Nevis for several weeks. And I am joined now by the Minister of Health, the Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet. We're going to be talking a bit more about the rollout campaign and how it's been going so far. So, Minister, it's been a few weeks, and one of the things I want to ask, at the start of it all, I know there was mixed reaction from the public. Some were willing to get vaccinated, others were a bit hesitant. It's been a few weeks since the rollout has been going on. Has that perception changed? Is it still the same? What's the reaction from the public like now?
We still have that mixed reaction from the general public, and something that we can't shy away from. There's quite a bit of misinformation out there about the vaccines, and so persons tend to be hesitant about taking the vaccine based on that misinformation. But what we've been doing within the Ministry of Health is trying to up our education program and going into the communities themselves and business places and even churches, just trying to get the message out there to see how much we would be able to dispel some of the misinformation that's out there. We have seen a steady around just above 200, 250 persons per day, unlike the 500 we started with. But we're almost at that 10,000, the first set of doses that we would have received from the government of India, the Covishield. And so we are hopeful that with this new set, we're now able to begin that other rollout of another 10,600 doses to persons who would be willing to accept. So we will continue to push our education program just to make sure that persons are getting the information that they need in order for them to make an informed decision.
Okay. You mentioned that there have been some misinformation and some fears that persons may have had about the vaccine. Can you tell us what were some of the perceptions or some of the specific concerns that you've had to address?
Well, we had persons thinking that the vaccines would somehow change their DNA structure, or some persons thinking that you'll be implanting a chip in them that would be able to read your thoughts or change your thoughts. And then there are others who see it as a trial vaccine, and so they are at that place where they don't feel as if they should be vaccinated with a trial vaccine. So it's about getting them to understand that our vaccines have gone through the 3 phases that are required in order for them to be able to come to market. To remind them that the World Health Organization, which is the overseeing body, would not recommend the use of, whether it is emergency use, any type of use of a vaccine, if at first they do not believe that this vaccine would do more good than it would do harm. And we've seen that. I mean, look at the numbers who have been vaccinated already, and we have not seen anything that would be disturbing enough for us to say, look, we have to stop vaccinating immediately. And so I think that's a positive, and hopefully persons will look at that, the number of persons that have actually been vaccinated versus anything that you might hear of any side effects or adverse effects from the vaccine. And you need to be able to weigh that as well. Now I have that chance. The chance of having some type of adverse effect from this vaccine versus being able to ensure that should I get COVID-19, I do not become severely ill or die. And so it's about showing persons the risks versus the things that, the benefits of the vaccine. And I think persons have, by and large, they have been beginning to understand and open up. And our young doctors have been doing a very good job at trying to quell some of the fears through their discussions with them and trying to answer as many questions as they have. So I think we'll be able to pull this around, and now we have the 21,600 doses. I'm hopeful that persons will be willing to step forward for these vaccines as well.
I know that in my discussions with some members of the public, one of the concerns that had been brought to me to ask, since I'm normally in communication with ministers, is that they're concerned about the time it took to create this vaccine. Some are saying that it was developed too fast and it might not be ready. It might be undercooked, for lack of a better terminology. What's your response to persons who might have those fears?
It went through all 3 phases, and it has been tested, tried and true, and we have been using it now, and millions of persons have already taken the vaccine without any adverse effects.
Okay, thank you very much, Minister Byron Nisbet.
You're welcome.
And it's been a pleasure speaking with you as well. Okay, so we are now going back over to the tarmac, where the Prime Minister and other officials will be walking out to officially receive the shipment of vaccines. The crate has been unloaded. The Prime Minister is now on the ramp leading up to the tarmac, and he's joined by Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Dolores Stapleton Harris. Other health officials are on their way to join them, including Medical Chief of Staff Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, who I was just speaking with, and Chief Medical Officer Dr. Hazel Laws. She is on her way with them as well as other senior persons within the Ministry of Health. Various media representatives are also on the tarmac, taking photographs and recording video. Once again, this is the arrival of 21,600 doses of vaccines from the COVAX facility. ZIZ is bringing live coverage from the Robert L. Bradshaw International Airport. We're live on the radio, TV, and all of our social media pages. As you can see, the video is showing us a close-up of the crate, and we have Minister of Health, Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet, Prime Minister Harris, and the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Dolores Stapleton Harris, as well as PAHO Country Representative Katrina Smith, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Hazel Laws, and Medical Chief of Staff Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, all present to receive the vaccines. They're now posing for a photo walk. And following this photo op and the official reception of the vaccines, the officials will return to the Welcome Center here at the airport for a brief ceremony where there will be remarks by PAHO Country Representative Katrina Smith, Health Minister Honorable Akila Barron-Nisbet, and Prime Minister Harris. As was mentioned before, the 21,600 doses will be enough to inoculate 10,800 persons, bringing us ever closer to a target of 33,037 persons needed to reach 70% of the total population, thus achieving what's called herd immunity. And as has been expressed by several officials, reaching herd immunity is really the goal, and that will allow the country to move forward in its road to recovery. In a previous interview, I spoke with Chair of the National COVID-19 Task Force, Abdia Samuel, and he said that reaching herd immunity really is key for decisions to possibly relax many of the restrictions. He told me that once we've achieved herd immunity, talks can be held to ease the restrictions on the number of persons in a gathering, such as at sporting events or at entertainment activities. He said that there can also be talks to either lessening or removing the need for quarantine for persons who are visiting. But again, this all relies on the country achieving herd immunity. And in order to do that, persons must get vaccinated. As such, the Ministry of Health has been pushing forward and is pushing and encouraging persons to get vaccinated through their roll-up to roll-out campaign. The officials have now returned to the Welcome Center, and we are about to begin the ceremony. And we now turn over to Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Dolores Stapleton.
I would like you to please allow some flexibility so the audience behind you can see the speakers. I think you would have already captured the essence of the supplies. So if you can kindly position yourself strategically so that persons behind you can witness or be in visual proximity to the presenters, I will appreciate it. You can also have a seat, but we'd like everyone here to be able to capitalize on the presentation. Thank you very much for your understanding. Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Honorable Akila Barron-Nisbet, Minister of Health et al. I did see Permanent Secretary Kebas, is she still here? And other permanent secretaries. Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Hazel Laws, our Chief of Staff, Medical Chief of Staff, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, Mrs. Giselle Brisbane Matthews, President, Chamber of Industry and Commerce, Ms. Katrina Smith, PAHO Representative to St. Kitts and Nevis, Mr. Abdia Samuel, Chairman of the National COVID-19 Task Force, and the other members of the task force who are present, members of the Health Emergency Operating Center, the Health Promotion Team, and members of our Vaccination Education Awareness Team. Members of the Media Corps, including Director General, Mr. Lesroy Williams, of the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service. I wish to welcome all of you to this very important and brief ceremony to mark the arrival of our procured vaccines, the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine from the COVAX facility in response to the coronavirus. You would agree that we have done well thus far relative to the management of the coronavirus. And we have demonstrated much resilience and commitment in our combat of the virus, with only 44 confirmed cases, no active infections, and no related mortality. But well is not enough, and our past successes should not deter us from further success. The fight is not over. We must have our people inoculated against the virus to protect our people and country and to bolster our health and socioeconomic systems as we embark on our ambitious path to full recovery. We are therefore extremely pleased that all of you have come here to witness this afternoon St. Kitts and Nevis's guaranteed amount of 21,600 doses of the COVID-19 Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine through the COVAX facility to inoculate 20% of its population. The COVAX facility is a global effort between the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, CEPI, Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, UNICEF, the Pan American Health Organization, and the World Health Organization. The arrival of the vaccine marks a historic step toward ensuring the equitable distribution of COVID-19 vaccines worldwide in the largest vaccine procurement and supply operation in history. The receipt of this vaccine is very reassuring because it means a larger percentage of our population within the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis will be afforded the opportunity to be vaccinated, resulting in more people being protected from the virus and its variants. I wish to express much thanks and gratitude to the World Health Organization and PAHO and Gavi for their support to the Federation's plan to contain the coronavirus pandemic. The arrival of the vaccines procured through these entities is a pellucid manifestation of support and cooperation. Thanks to all of you for coming, and I welcome you warmly to this brief celebratory event. Thank you very much. And I now wish to continue our program by inviting Ms. Katrina Smith, St. Kitts and Nevis's PAHO representative, to provide brief remarks on behalf of the Pan American Health Organization. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris, Honorable Byron Nisbet, Minister of Health, ICT, Entertainment, Entrepreneurship and Talent Development, other members of the Cabinet, if they are here, Dr. Dolores Stapleton Harris, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Health, Dr. Hazel Laws, Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson, Medical Chief of Staff at the JNF Hospital, other staff from the medical fraternity, specially invited guests, and the media. I'm very pleased to be here this afternoon to welcome you all to make remarks on behalf of the Pan American Health, World Health Organization, and the representative to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, Dr. Itardis Gabriel. I bring his warm and heartfelt greetings, and he sends his regrets that he could not be with us at this important public health event. Honorable Prime Minister, the start of vaccine rollout is a hopeful step in the fight against this virus, and PAHO is proud to facilitate this urgently needed effort in St. Kitts and Nevis. Our region, the Americas, will have to immunize at least 700 million people against COVID-19, of which 33,037 persons are being targeted to be vaccinated in St. Kitts and Nevis. This is a significant public health undertaking. As the PAHO Director, Dr. Carissa Etienne, recently mentioned, immunization in Latin America and the Caribbean should be a global priority, and our region needs vaccines as soon as possible and as many as possible to save lives. Access to COVID-19 vaccines should not be a privilege for a few, but a right that we all share, regardless of who we are and where we are from. PAHO is supporting countries in distributing the COVID-19 vaccine to their populations, building on their long experience with vaccination campaigns and immunization programs. Around 141.7 million people have received at least one dose of vaccines in the Americas. Approximately 28% of this amount is in Latin America and the Caribbean. As of yesterday, April 6, 2021, in an effort coordinated by the PAHO Revolving Fund, 2.8 million doses have been delivered and are being deployed to the countries in the region of the Americas, inclusive of our Caribbean region. PAHO's Revolving Fund is facilitating access to COVID-19 vaccines for countries in the Americas that are participating in the COVAX facility, and is working with UNICEF and vaccine manufacturers to organize deliveries as quickly as possible. The doses and availability of vaccines under COVAX are subject to the emergency use approval by WHO, the manufacturing production capacity, as well as establishing supply agreements between the producers and the COVAX facility. The pre-qualification of vaccines to be used through COVAX allows PAHO to offer vaccines with the highest effectiveness and safety standards. Vaccine supply continues to be a great challenge, and a large part of this is due to delays in production as manufacturers scale up capacity. The goal of the COVAX facility is to provide vaccines for at least 20% of the population in each participating country globally, with the aim of protecting those most at risk and to save lives. COVAX remains the best option to offer vaccines with equity. Honorable Prime Minister and Minister Byron Nisbet, today the Pan American Health Organization, as the procurement agency for the COVAX facility, is delivering the first allocation of 21,600 doses to the Ministry of Health and, by extension, the government and people of St. Kitts and Nevis. The arrival of COVAX facility in our region today, and today in St. Kitts and Nevis is a historic milestone, as well as the culmination of months of negotiations and a commitment to global solidarity. While there is reason for hope, we must also remember that doses are limited, and it will be several months before we can rely on vaccines to control this virus. Our goal must be to save as many lives as possible by prioritizing early doses for those who are at the highest risk of infection. These first vaccines will help to leverage the initial limited number of doses for greater impact, preventing hospitalizations and death, protecting health workers, and reducing the strain on our health systems. Vaccines will save lives and eventually halt the pandemic, but with around 131.8 million confirmed cases and over 2.8 million deaths as of yesterday, countries in the Eastern Caribbean and our region in general must maintain the public health measures to limit exposure to the virus, social distancing, limiting gatherings, the consistent use of masks in public settings, and frequent hand washing are some measures for reducing the number of COVID-19 infections at this time. Finally, please accept our sincere congratulations and appreciation for your strong leadership to the national COVID-19 response effort, and today accessing the vaccine through COVAX facility. I thank you.
We thank Ms. Katrina Smith, our country representative, for her remarks, and we also wish to commend the support and the cooperation of the World Health Organization and the Pan American Health Organization. They have provided immense support prior to the virus and during, and they are still doing so. And we wish to commend them strongly. Thank you very much. It gives me great pleasure to now invite to the podium the Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet, Minister of Health, et al.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to all. Allow me to adopt the protocol, but I must recognize at the head table the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris, Permanent Secretary within the Ministry of Health, Dr. Dolores Stapleton Harris, and our PAHO country representative, Ms. Katrina Smith, as well as our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Hazel Laws, and our Medical Chief of Staff, Dr. Cameron Wilkinson. These vaccines that we are receiving today from the COVAX facility, we have been hearing so much about them over the past year, and we are so pleased that today we are able to receive these vaccines. I am even more happy that we're receiving these vaccines today because, as most of you should know, today just happens to be World Health Day 2021. And in the spirit of World Health Day, and the theme for this year, building a fairer and healthier world for everyone, I believe that is indeed important. And this is indeed an important occasion that we will be able to receive our COVAX vaccines at this day. And I thought that it was important for us to even reflect on the meaning of today as we receive these vaccines. As we all know, the World Health Day continues to be recognized annually since 1950 to commemorate the commissioning of the World Health Organization. The organization has a broad mandate which includes advocating for universal health care, monitoring public health risks, coordinating responses to health emergencies, and promoting human health and well-being. The World Health Organization's founding is seen as a significant opportunity by the entity to draw worldwide attention to a subject of major importance to global health each year and to mitigate against disparities in health at the country level. Accordingly, the WHO defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. However, many proponents of health and well-being have concurred that the meaning of health has evolved over the ages, since the state of a person's normal health function could be disrupted from time to time by disease, other variables, and at this juncture, the coronavirus pandemic. Being cognizant of this, the theme of World Health Day 2021, as I said before, is building a fairer and healthier world for everyone. Today, in particular, and more than ever before, we must foster an all-of-society approach campaign to build a fairer, healthier world. The theme, therefore, embraces a strong clarion call for urgent action to eliminate health inequalities and to mobilize action to attain better health for all. According to the WHO, health inequalities are unjust, unfair, and widen the equity gaps, preventing persons from reaching their full potential. These health inequalities are largely felt among those who are disadvantaged and who often experience discrimination, resulting in illness, morbidity, and premature mortality. Reducing health inequities is an imperative because health is a fundamental human right. everyone deserves to live a healthy life, regardless of their age, gender, ethnicity, disability, economic situation, or employment. It was Dr. Joy St. John, the Executive Director of the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CARPHA, who suggested that health inequities go against the very fabric of social justice because they are avoidable, is a succinctly profound reminder of our role within a healthcare sector. Several factors contribute to inequities such as poverty, unemployment, environmental challenges, gender inequalities, and most recently, the emergence of COVID-19. The pandemic has had grave consequences for people already experiencing inequities, and it has disproportionately impacted persons already socially and economically disadvantaged. While COVID-19 has significantly and adversely affected all countries, its impact has been harshest on those communities which were already vulnerable, who are more exposed to the disease, less likely to have access to quality healthcare services, and more likely to experience adverse consequences as a result of measures implemented to contain the pandemic. The World Health Day comes at a very critical juncture in the history of humankind when the COVID-19 pandemic has affected 0.13 billion people globally. The pandemic has, for the first time in our recent history, brought health to the fore as an important public policy matter. In addition, the pandemic underscores the importance of public participation in any policy measure. At the same time, it also highlights the importance of continued vigilant preparedness and prudent increase in public spending to build and sustain infrastructure that will ensure equitable health care to all. As the pandemic should not allow for the more basic health problems to attract less attention and priority. Therefore, addressing our challenges of communicable and non-communicable diseases and our health promoting programs must remain a high priority as we embrace the UN Sustainable Goal number 3, good health and well-being for all. Clearly, therefore, we must continue our quest to build a healthy federation with access to safe drinking water, nutritious foods, and clean air, and the promotion of physical activities, which are the genuine underpinnings of a fairer, healthier world for everyone. Hence, as a federation, our mandates include working together, hand in hand with affected communities and individuals to address the root causes of inequities and to implement solutions within and beyond the health sector. Collecting and using timely and reliable health data which are disaggregated by gender, age, income, education, disability, geographic location, and other characteristics relevant to the national context. Only then is it possible to assess inequities across population subgroups and take impactful actions. The strategies above are key to addressing the challenges of ensuring health for all and to building the resilience of tomorrow. However, the impact will be greatest when governments and communities work together in a coordinated approach. In addition, we are required to function beyond our national borders. For example, only when we can protect, test, and treat the whole global population can we end the COVID-19 pandemic. Only when we access an equitable supply of vaccines, tests, and treatments can we strengthen national and international mechanisms and builds community trust and confidence. The receipt of this 21,600 doses of the WHO-approved Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine from the COVAX facility today is timely when we are celebrating our World Health Day. Further, it is a profound manifestation of the required strong multilateral cooperation towards managing the coronavirus pandemic. We firmly believe that only the vaccine can rein in the pandemic. So, as we commemorate World Health Day 2021 amid the pandemic, we should all be first grateful for our healthcare workers who are working diligently to manage the virus, as well as to commend the efforts of our global health scientists and researchers for manufacturing safe and efficacious vaccines to strengthen and sustain our health systems in the quest to mitigate social and health inequities. The Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis joins the world to observe World Health Day and continue to play its part to ensure that health inequalities are eliminated, quality services are available, accessible, and affordable, and that no one is left behind within our healthcare system. And today, I just want to remind everyone, the pandemic will not be over until we all do our part. We now have 21,600 doses, and we're counting on each and everyone who is eligible to step forward and be vaccinated. If it is you still need more information about the vaccines, 311 operators are available. Don't let your lack of knowledge be an excuse for not being able to step forward and be vaccinated. It is up to each of us to do our part. The only how we can get back to what is some form of normalcy is if we all are vaccinated. And so I'm urging one and all, let us use this 21,600 doses and see how much more of our population we can get vaccinated. That is how we're going to get back into our jobs. That is how our tourism will continue to boom. That is how we will be able to make sure that each of us are able to feed our families and loved ones. And so I'm asking one and all, think about it that way. What is your contribution to ending this pandemic? All you have to do is step forward and be vaccinated. So please remember, don't wait, vaccinate, and also, happy World Health Day. Thank you.
Minister of Health, the Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet, for those very succinct remarks regarding World Health Day. And by the way, I was remiss in not wishing all of us as healthcare providers happy World Health Day. The theme of World Health Day, as she would have mentioned, is building a fairer and healthier world for everyone. And that is exactly what we are here to do. With the arrival and acceptance of these vaccines, we are building healthier lives, fairer lives. The vaccine is free. It does not discriminate among age, gender, culture, background, employment, or anything, and so it promotes equity and fairness. So please take the vaccine. Do not wait. Do not hesitate. Thank you, Minister, for reinforcing these sentiments to our healthcare persons and to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. It now gives me immense pleasure to invite to the podium our esteemed Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Timothy Harris.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Dolores Stapleton Harris. I want to recognize our Minister of Health, Mrs. Akila Byron Nisbet, and also to recognize at the head table Miss Katrina Smith, PAHO Country Representative, and to thank Ms. Smith for participating in today's important activity. Let me also recognize everyone who is here, but in particular, since this is World Health Day, to recognize all those who are delivering healthcare services in our federation. Importantly, the topic is vaccination. And as we speak, we are seeing the mobilization of resources of an unprecedented amount all over the world as the world at large engages itself in what has been described as the largest vaccination program in living memory. That is significant because we have had other health issues to contend with. The battle, the fight in which we are engaged is essentially a matter of life and death, and it requires everyone to be fully engaged in support of life and livelihoods. And that is why today, all over the world, everyone, every country is making valiant efforts to secure vaccines. Today, we have come to acknowledge the receipt of some 21,600 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine, courtesy of the COVAX facility. And this quantity, which we have just received, brings our federation's doses so far to 41,600. The vaccine that we are using is a 2-dose regimen that is required. And so if we do the computation, it means that our supply so far can allow us to vaccinate 20,800 persons here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We have set ourselves the target of just over 33,000 persons to achieve herd immunity. This means that we have 62% of our target group covered by the combination of doses that we have had so far. This is really significant, and it means if we work hard, St. Kitts and Nevis can really become the first nation state to achieve herd immunity. We are, of course, thankful that we had engaged in the COVAX facility very early. In fact, we were among the first within the region to have signed up and paid monies to secure this support coming through the COVAX facility. At long last today, we welcome this quantity of the AstraZeneca vaccine. AstraZeneca vaccine remains the vaccine of choice within our Caribbean region. And we are happy that at long last, we have had a significant support over the last couple of days of the vaccine being provided through this facility. The COVAX, of course, is an abbreviation of the COVID-19 vaccines, global access. And this is a global initiative aimed at equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines. The initiative is led by entities such as Gavi, the World Health Organization, UNICEF, and the Coalition of Epidemic Preparedness Innovations. Indeed, I also want to recognize the contribution that PAHO, as the regional procurement agency, and CAFA have both been playing in providing technical and other support to our CARICOM region in this battle to secure these vaccines. It is because of the collaborative efforts, both at the global and hemispheric level, between all of the foregoing entities and other agencies, that nations like St. Kitts and Nevis can receive this support that we need in the fight against COVID-19. We have established that essentially there are 4 tools required to defeat COVID-19: diagnostics, therapeutics, vaccines, and the strengthening of our health systems. We were, up to a couple weeks back, faced with the challenge that we had no vaccines. Today, we are closer to ensuring that our future can be safer and better as a result of this further supply. I want on this occasion to single out the stellar leadership of Dr. Tedros, Director General of the WHO, who has been doing excellent advocacy on behalf of small island states like those of us within the CARICOM. The nature of COVID-19 is well known, and we have heard that from some of the persons who would have spoken before me, indeed all of them. COVID-19 does not recognize countries or borders. It doesn't matter whether you are United States of America, you are China, you are Italy, you are Russia. It is in fact everywhere. No country is safe. No nation is secure until all countries are safe. So long as we have transboundary movement, we have the challenge of the COVID-19. And that is why the idea of solidarity raised by Ms. Smith is important, because it has to be all of us in it together. Just as locally in our fight against COVID-19, we developed the motto, the ethos of the all of society approach. In the same vein, at the broader global level, we need every country to be working in solidarity to ensure that our world can be a safer place for all of us. And that is why the efforts by COVAX are so crucial to ensure that no country is left behind. Countries with power are able to comply, to control supply chains. Countries with resources, countries which are rich, always determine market forces. Whether it is oil or it is sugar, they will determine, because they have the resources and the power structures to do so. In the context of vaccines, for example, there is no producer within the Caribbean region. The producers are all elsewhere, in India, in the United Kingdom, in the USA. And those countries, by nature of their own policies can determine who gets. We have seen already where in Europe, some countries took the decision that they would restrict exports of vaccines until they were satisfied that the producers could deliver the quantities that they had committed to them. That is then one example of why we need international solidarity. We need a common approach and a common commitment to equitable access to the vaccine. Clearly then, if we were to leave it to the rich countries, it will become a matter of charity. It will be like the pastor christening his child first. So we will end up with a situation of the rich versus the poor. The world will not fully recover if we have the vaccine haves and the vaccine have-nots. And that is where, again, the solidarity, the coming together becomes important. And an entity like COVAX assumes greater relevance and importance to us in this part of the globe. In my capacity as Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, and in my role as CARICOM lead head for human resources, health, and HIV, I want again to call on the wealthier nations to do more to assist developing countries. I want to reiterate a call I made earlier to the G7 countries, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the UK and the USA, as well as to the EU, to do more to make vaccines available to small, vulnerable nations and those in need. As we speak, not every jurisdiction has vaccine available to them. Indeed, we have over 193 plus jurisdictions recognized by the UN. And up to last count, only about 150 plus had any quantity of vaccine available. So we see already that we do not have equitable access, and that is something that we need to correct. Already we are aware that about 76% of all vaccines have been purchased by 9 of the wealthiest countries in the world. Those are challenges of equity, challenges of solidarity, challenges of where the world will go, whether we will go together or we will have each one fighting for itself. Today, St. Kitts and Nevis and several other member states of CARICOM have experienced the practical benefits of what can be achieved through the COVAX facility. We are slowly getting a genuine international effort to beat this international pandemic, but this needs to move more quickly. Globally, less than 5% of the world population has been vaccinated. With more vaccines now available to us, I want to again call upon all of our citizens and residents in St. Kitts and Nevis to play your part. This is your chance to step up and join the global fight against COVID-19. Our health professionals are encouraged by the numbers of people coming forward to get vaccinated. In the short period of time since we rolled out our program on the 22nd of February 2021, just some 7 weeks ago. As of yesterday, our figures show that 9,774 citizens and residents have now received their first dose. We have then inoculated about 30% of our target population of 33,236. This is really a very good start. This morning I had a conversation with our High Commissioner in Ottawa, Ms. Strauss, and we discussed the Canadian response. She told me, Prime Minister, Canada is in trouble. And I do not think that we are going to be able to persuade them to provide vaccines to the Caribbean or to any country, because Canada is way behind target. Canada has not yet covered about 10% of its population, and so they are significantly behind. It means then that some of the large, powerful countries will become more aggressive in getting their vaccines, even if it means approaching the COVAX facility, to which they have contributed, and to which we had hoped that they will await the vulnerable and the most needy the opportunity to get their vaccines through the COVAX facility, since their purchasing power cloud allowed them other avenues. We are seeing that possibly they are going to go in the queue. And once they go in the COVAX queue, it will be more challenging an experience. I want to warn those who are waiting that they have to be careful that in waiting they may end up waiting in vain, because there is no guarantee now that enough vaccines will be available in the short intervals. Whatever we have to guard it as a precious jewel, secure it. And in the case of the vaccine, the sooner you move to get your jab, the better it will be for you. It is a good start for us here in St. Kitts and Nevis that we can say we are about almost a third of the way in our target group, but there is a lot more work that still has to be done, and we need more people on board. We need every employer, not just to say, but to insist that every employee must be vaccinated. This is where it's going to come. For the protection of your business, for the protection of the peace and the health of those who are vaccinated, employers, including the government, will have to give consideration to that. We have seen it already started in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Last night in Leadership Matters, I made it clear that my government has sought the advice of constitutional experts in relation to this particular matter. And there's, of course, a balance. But ultimately, we are confident that our Health Act, Public Health Act, does provide for the compulsory vaccination of persons, but certain SRO become necessary. And so we are getting further legal advice as to how we will move and how quickly. Do we wish to get there? If it is in the national interest, if it is that people are being too tardy, if it is that people are not conscious that by remaining unvaccinated for long, they are jeopardizing the health of other people in the workplace, they are jeopardizing the recovery of the country, then we certainly will have to look there. I was asked when we will do it and whether we are considering. My government has always said, and I have always said, that when it comes to matters that are critical to the survival of the state, the government must not take any option off the table. And whether it was in the battle against criminal activity, where I said we must use every resource to wipe it out of the country, or now we are faced with a global pandemic, we have to ensure that people do the right thing. And if we need legislation to ensure that people act responsibly, we will be prepared to bring the legislation, because the health and safety of our country must never be compromised. Never be compromised. None can gainsay that what we have here is an existential threat to our well-being, our way of life, the way we do things. It has been so for over a year now. And it is time for us to awaken to the reality that life has to go back to some sense of normalcy. The mask wearing and all those other things that we can't do, which we have loved so much, and which we have to find better ways of doing. Until we get ourselves vaccinated, we can't change course. Should we let a determined couple of people determine the future of all of us? I say no. And so I want to end on a note of encouragement. Please get yourself vaccinated, and the time to do it is now. Do it, if not for you, for the loved ones at home. Do it, if not for you, for your grandmother, your mother, your father, your children who themselves can't be vaccinated. You, by getting vaccinated, can do it for them. You who are working in the front line must do it for your co-workers too. It is not just about you. That is what COVID-19 reminded us since last year. It was not just about us, why we must wear the mask. It was also about the other passenger in the public transportation with us. It was also about the next customer in the bank line. And that we must do unto others as we wish they will do unto us. No one must ever be allowed to, in a very reckless way, allow others to be infected with diseases, especially when appropriate behavior makes it avoidable. So again, if we want to get the economy back to work, go and get vaccinated. If you want to get a job, or at least to be considered as a time when jobs are scarce, I will find it highly irresponsible for us to be recruiting people who are not vaccinated. At the same time, we are making a call for those on the job to get vaccinated. Well, you can't vex with an employer if the employer says, I want people who are vaccinated on my job. You have the choice to either comply with a reasonable request or you leave the job. You have a choice, so nobody is forcing you. But the employer has a right to determine the qualities that he expects in an employee and a prospective one. So for all of us, for the continuing peace and development of this, our beloved Federation, I call on each of us to do our part. Do our part without being compelled to. Do our part because we understand the time of the day, and we need to redeem the times, and we need to do it urgently, or else our efforts will all be in vain. One of the reasons why the wealthiest are grabbing for the vaccine, it is that they have determined never again should their economy and society become so powerless in the face of a health pandemic. Never again will they go back there. You look to America and you saw weakness and sloppiness at the peak of the pandemic. It did immense damage to the psyche of the American as the most powerful nation in the world. Never again will it allow itself to go back there. We in St. Kitts and Nevis have a duty of care for ourselves and to others. Let us show it by getting vaccinated. I want to thank all the health people who have gone beyond the call of duty, exposing themselves to us in a manner of speaking, to ensure that up to today, we are alive to tell this story. They did it when there were no vaccine. Could we give a round of applause to our nurses and doctors and EMS people? And I feel especially glad that some of our nurses are going beyond the call of duty. And at the end of the vaccination period, there are some of them who are going in the communities to vaccinate those persons who can't make it to the health center. I know that Nurse Doris Bradshaw at Molineux has been doing that, and up to last night after 8, she was out in the district. I know because I called them to see what is happening in the constituency. So I want to commend her and others. I know that on Saturday, Nurse Gabriel, Noreen Gabriel, stayed long after midday to ensure that those persons who needed to come were able to get their vaccine. Let's give her a round of applause. And I commend those of our retired nurses who understood the urgency of now, chose at this time to come out. I recall in the initial onslaught of the COVID, it was difficult to get retired nurses to come out. Nobody wanted to expose themselves to the COVID-19 challenge. I am heartened that with more information, they feel better prepared and more confident. I'm advised that just about a dozen, yes, nurses, 11, 12 minus 1, 11 of them have volunteered. Let's give them all a special hand of applause. May God bless us and let us as a people do the right thing, because it is always better that we work together, and it is always better that we act responsibly and do the right thing, not just because it is expedient, because by our bringing, our discipline, our knowledge, we understand that it is better to do the right thing simply because it is the right thing to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, our illustrious Prime Minister, and may God bless you also. We thank you for your sound words of encouragement and your sound words that, in my opinion, cannot be condemned. And I maintain that when our rich history is written, your staunch, sterling, and exemplary leadership will be recorded in the annals of our books. Thank you, sir, for your support. I wish to say we are coming to the conclusion of this ceremony, and I wish to say that the arrival of these vaccines to the COVAX facility is a monumental signal of solidarity for humanity. They also signal and symbolize hope to many individuals, families, and countries. And I make the clarion call for us to collectively halt the pandemic as individuals, families, communities, private institutions, through the vaccination as a key element in the public health service to protect against the COVID-19. We have to turn the corner. And with the statistics revealing that more variants are emerging, vaccination is indeed the conclusive solution. Thank you for coming, and let us all on this World Health Day continue our strong advocacy to vaccinate and promote the safety of all of us and propel our federation to a state of normalcy. So don't wait, vaccinate, and encourage each other so that none of us is left behind. Thank you. The Honorable Prime Minister is willing to take one or two questions.
The rebuilding of tourism starts
if there are any. Yes, please.
Glenn Bart from SKN News 9. What would you say to those persons who have been, well, you have mentioned some words just a while ago, but they have been declaring, for example, they have been hearing that people are getting blood clots from the AstraZeneca, and that is creating doubt in many persons' minds as to whether they should or should not take the vaccine. Our health officials have been saying it's safe, but still it persists that people have a belief that something could happen. What do you say to those persons?
The search for truth must always be welcome. And we are saying that a lot of persons are seeing a lot of misinformation and propaganda. The best way to deal with it will be to speak to your medical profession. And the Ministry of Health is always available. You can also speak to your personal physician to get the right facts. In relation to the issue of the blood clot, for example, I had been in a vaccination information session where Dr. Cameron Wilkerson dealt with that matter, that there was no evidence established in causality with respect to the vaccine and the blood clotting. Indeed, blood clotting can come from so many things. And then we heard that the European Medical Agency also expressed the view that there were no scientific basis on which these rumors were being based. And so I think there's adequate evidence from authoritative bodies. And sometimes you wonder what choice persons choose to make, because you have two views or competing views. Persons tend to hold upon the negative one. Anybody can come with something. At least we are a living example. In our own hemisphere, it's over 100 million plus persons have already been vaccinated. In St. Kitts and Nevis, it's nearly 10,000. Have you heard one person who have fallen ill with blood clot as a result? No. So what are you relying on? What is the basis by which you will hold that in your head? So again, people are making choices. Sometimes people come to me and they say, Prime Minister, John James said that you said do this and so on, and I don't understand. And I said to them, well, you choose to believe John Jones. Because if John Jones comes and he says, the Prime Minister said, give me $20,000, you're not going to give him that. But you now choose when to come with something else to work on it because he said he has a prime minister. Well, I don't accept that kind of behavior. So again, it's time for people to move on. Around the world, 665 million plus doses of the vaccine have already been delivered in the arm of persons. And if you were to make a count of those, assuming for a moment without accepting it to be true, that you had a small percentage or number of persons, it becomes almost insignificant. So the benefit clearly outweighs the disadvantage. And in the end, this is where the choice will be. The preponderance of the benefits are clear. The preponderance of the benefits is clear. Are you going to rely upon a woman? That's a personal choice, and it's not necessarily founded in rationality. Rationality means you go, you research, you ask people better informed than you about a particular matter, and you come up with a responsible judgment. I don't know if Dr. Cameron wants to explain this, maybe you could add a voice in relation to this blood clotting issue. The FDA and all the authoritative bodies have already said on this matter, and so for me this is almost, you know, which we should delay ourselves in terms of making a determination. Right here we have enough people who have taken it to go by the evidence that abounds.
The first thing I want to say is that people were getting sick before COVID-19 and they will continue to get sick after COVID-19. And it doesn't necessarily mean because you've gotten the vaccine that whatever ailment you happen to come down with is related to the vaccination itself. Now, to date, more than 268 million persons have received the vaccine for AstraZeneca worldwide. And when there was the question as to whether or not the vaccine was related to the clot, there were 30 persons who got a clot out of over 19 million persons who had received the vaccine. Blood clots are common in general. 1 in 1,000 persons each year die from a blood clot. And so the evidence has shown that there is no direct link as yet between the AstraZeneca vaccine and the blood clot. And all of the experts have said that the benefits outweigh the risk. And so we know that you can die from COVID-19. We know that the vaccine prevents you from getting seriously ill and also save your life. And so we should take it.
Any other questions? No more questions, so I want to thank you for coming, but before we leave, I just want to share, you know, I started trying off with the jokes, right? One more joke to conclude it. I just got kicked out of a Flat Earth Facebook group because I asked if the 6-foot social distancing guideline had pushed anyone over the edge yet. Hello? But that's a good one to end with, right? Thank you very much for coming, and may God continue to bless all of us and the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Do let's come forward and have a photo up, the entire group, for posterity. Thank you.
The rebuilding of tourism starts with taking the vaccine.
I'm taking the vaccine for a healthy nation.
I for sure will be taking the vaccine.
I am taking the vaccine because it's the best way to get back into full swing. Stay safe.
I've taken the vaccine for my family, for my friends, for my community, and for me.